Welcome to the Keeping It Israel podcast with Jeff Feuders, where Jeff and his guests talk everything Israel as it relates to Christian faith and the church. If you are a Christian and you stand with Israel, you will be encouraged and challenged by this podcast. And if you're not so sure about the whole Israel thing, you need to learn how your faith connects with Israel and why standing with Israel matters. Now here's Jeff with today's guest.
Hey, welcome to the podcast today. My name is Jeff, and I'll be your host, and I have a very special guest today. Isaac Karasenti is a great friend and a tour guide from Israel. Isaac and I have spent numerous hours together, both with tour groups and also filming for our television show, First Century Foundations. So I thought it'd be great if we could chat with Isaac. He's going to give us a little bit of an update as to what things are like in Israel right now and the state of the tourism industry. And so this is going to be interesting for you. Let's listen in on my conversation with Isaac Karasenti. Well, welcome to the podcast today, the Keeping It Israel podcast. And my guest today is Isaac Karasenti. And Isaac is a good friend. We have known each other now for, 3-4 years, I guess. And at least, yeah. But Isaac, tell us a little bit about who you are.
My very, very dear friend, Jeff. So good to hear from you.
Great to have you.
Thank you. So my name is Isaac Karasenti. I'm an Israeli tour guide. I'm in the tourist industry, if we can call it like this, for 30 years, exactly 30 years.
Wow.
And my family is originally from Spain. We came to Israel in 1492. 1492 in Spain, there was a very big Jewish community. And in those days, the queen was Isabella, the king was Ferdinand. As history tells us, 1492, the queen and the king came to the Jews. And they wanted all of them to convert to Christianity, to be Catholics. Otherwise, they told them, you must leave Spain. If not, we are going to kill all of you. Of course, that the Jews didn't want to convert to Christianity, so they had to leave. Most of the Jews that left Spain in 1492 fled to Central and to East Europe. However, there was a minority, when I say minority, only 2,000 families that from Spain decided to go back home to the land of Israel. My family was with these 2,000 families that decided to return back home to Israel without any stopping on the way. So from Spain, they came directly to Israel. Israel in those days was very small. There were only 4 cities where Jews could live: Jerusalem, Hebron, Tiberias, and Safed in Upper Galilee. So when my family arrived here, they settled down in Tiberias and in Tzfat. By the way, until today, most of my family is still in Tiberias, but with the young generation nowadays, we live in Haifa. It is a beautiful city, northern part of the coastline of Israel, and here we are.
Wow. So your roots in Israel run extremely deep, deeper than most, I would say.
More than 500 years.
Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing.
In my family, we have a joke. We say when Columbus discovered America, we discovered Israel. He also.
Exactly.
In 1492, he went west, we went east.
Perfect. Well, that's amazing. And 30 years as a tour guide, you've been in the industry. And that's kind of how we connected, how we met through our mutual friend, Mickey, who is our travel agent here in the Toronto area. And so, we've known each other, I would say at least 4 years, maybe a bit longer. And you have not only toured a couple of groups for us, but you've also appeared on 2 different seasons of our television show, First Century Foundations, with me and in a number of episodes. And you are becoming well-known here in Canada. I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And I have to say that everybody who has traveled with us in a group, and you've been a part of that, have just raved about you and the way that you lead one of our tour groups. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for all the compliments.
Yeah. I want to tell you, I probably have told you this before, but the listeners will enjoy this. One of the first times I realized that I was in the presence of greatness when you were leading our tour group. My friend Doug and I had people on the tour, and we were in Banyas. We were up at Caesarea Philippi, and I remember I had on my iPad all of the scripture verses that I was going to read from the story of Jesus and the disciples at Caesarea Philippi, and I was waiting for you to finish your thing, and then I was going to come and do my thing. And so you began to tell the story of this place, and as only you can do, and you set up all the background and all the historical narrative and everything, and then you started to talk about the story of Jesus and the disciples. And I was looking at my iPad, and not only were you recounting the story, you were quoting word for word from the scriptures that I had prepared to read. It was amazing. That's when I knew that you had a brain unlike many people in the world. And wow, your memory is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I tell you, I think that I have a photographic memory.
Yeah, I think you do too.
When I read something, I photograph it.
Yeah.
In my mind, in my memory.
Yeah. It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Well, listen, that's great. Now, the situation in Israel right now, let's talk a little bit about that. You, as a country, it seems to us from here in North America that Israel did fantastically well in the early stages of the coronavirus of COVID-19.
Yes.
Locked down quickly, sort of got numbers under control. But then something happened over the summer. What's going on right now?
It's a very good question. As you said, Jeff, in the very beginning, March, April, we did great. We were, I think, the first country to close the borders.
Mm-hmm.
We even cut all of the tours that were going on in Israel, sent all of the tourists back home, back to their countries, and the situation was very good. Our government also decided about the closure for more than a month. People were not allowed to leave their homes unless, you're a policeman or a doctor or a nurse. They need you at work. And we did very, very good. Problem was that towards the summer, there was very heavy pressure on the government, to open the factories, to open the restaurants, pubs, bars, everything. So the government decided to open everything too fast. Instead to do it in stages, they decided we opened everything within 2-3 weeks. Imagine to yourself from 0 to almost 100, 2.5-3 weeks. And then the problem was that people thought, that's it. The coronavirus is over. Now, let's go party. And this is the biggest problem. Because the authorities warned the people. They told them, listen, we are not done with this coronavirus. When you go out, you must wear a mask. This is the law, I think, also in Canada.
Yes.
The law in Israel, the moment that you leave home, you must wear a mask. Otherwise, if not, you get a ticket. Ticket here in Israel is 500 shekels. They don't talk to you. You're without a mask, or if the mask covers only your mouth, not your nose, same thing. 500 shekels immediately. And also, they told the people, okay, you can go out, but you have to keep a distance of 2 meters between one person to the another. And this is the problem, because I'm an Israeli, and it's very sad, to say not good things about my people, but Israelis are not disciplined and definitely not very well behaved. People literally ignored everything, ignored the law, ignored everything. They showed on television. People went out, no masks, nothing. And you started to see what was going on, like in cities like Tel Aviv. Big parties all night long. You see hundreds of people in a nightclub, 300-400 people together in a small building in a nightclub. Of course, that this corona was like, a fire in the middle of the summer. And also people, summer in Israel is very hot. People go to the beach. Same thing. They didn't care. No mask. They didn't keep any distance. Nothing at all. So it started again. It's not like in Europe or I think in Canada, you had the first wave, then you had some quiet time and second wave. In Israel, we are still on the first wave. We had the first wave, went down a little bit, and then increased in a terrible situation. I think that nowadays we are, winners. We are first place in the world with coronavirus per population. We are the first in the world. I remember in the very beginning when you saw what was going on in Italy and Spain, you felt sorry for them. Today, almost the same. I mean, people are not dying like in Italy and in Spain, but you see every day in Israel, we have another 700-800 new people that got the infection, this virus, within the last 24 hours. Now, in Israel, we have thousands of people who have this coronavirus. Also, add to this sad reality, two other factors, the ultra-Orthodox and the Arabs. Ultra-Orthodox in Israel, they live like in small ghettos. They're extremely crowded, extremely crowded. Even if there is someone sick in the family, within 24 hours, all the rest of the family is sick. Because they are like 10, 12 people in one house. Although the government give you the option, if you're a coronavirus, on behalf of the government, they take you to a corona hotel all over Israel. The government paid for hotels to become to be what we call corona hotel. So if you need to go for 2-3 weeks, the government pays. People don't want to do that. So this is the ultra-Orthodox and also the Arabs. They had some big holidays, the Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, crazy. And now we are paying the price.
Wow. Well, so in Haifa, where you are, I know one thing about Israel, it's fairly densely populated. When you're out on the street, it's wall-to-wall people.
Yes.
So it really has to be challenging to be able to move around and do what you have to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tell you, Haifa, thank God, we are in a good place. I mean, like the most terrible cities nowadays, Jerusalem is number one. Then we have Tel Aviv, which is number two. Then we have other Arab and ultra-Orthodox Jewish cities. In Haifa, where I live, we don't have many people who have this coronavirus. My wife is a nurse in the hospital, in the Rambam hospital, which is the biggest hospital in all of the northern part of Israel. They built a special department for corona.
Right.
Nowadays, they have there maybe 3 or 4 people. That's all. They're about to close this department because the hospital says, listen, for 3-4 people, we're not going to keep the whole section of the building or to put the stuff. So Haifa is in good conditions. But me personally, when I go out, like if I have to go shopping, then I go very early in the morning. The supermarkets here open at 7 o'clock. I arrive there even at 6:45, 7 o'clock they open. I buy and that's it. I go home. Of course, always with a mask. Or if I want to, you're not going to believe this. I started to love sport. So every morning I run 8 kilometers. 8 kilometers by the
I'm
beach.
sorry, Isaac, you're going to have to say that again. I think there was something wrong with my earphone. You said
I started to love sport.
Yes.
Every morning I run 8 kilometers.
You run.
Run 8 kilometers.
And nobody's chasing you?
So what I do, in order to make sure that I'm alone and my wife thinks that I'm crazy, I get up every morning at 3:30 a.m.
3:30.
3:30. I leave home at 4 o'clock. I drive my car to the beach. It's 15 minutes. I run from 4:15 to 5:30 in the morning. It's only me and the beach. I don't see any more people. By 6 o'clock, I'm back home.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So when we have to go out, we do it or very early or very late when there are not a lot of people.
Wow, that's great. I'm not even going to recognize you the next time I see you. You're going to be like,
I
you're going to be
lost,
so
I
thin.
lost 35 kilos.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I'm running too. I am running too. But only 5 kilometers or 6 kilometers. I think I do 6 now. But now you've motivated me. I'm going to have to. I can't have you running more than me. I'm going to have to somehow win this little race here. I don't run
Maybe
on the.
the best of us win.
Yes, may the best man win. That's funny. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well and that Haifa is doing well. I guess maybe in the northern areas is Tiberias, because it's fairly heavily ultra orthodox. Are they having issues with numbers there?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
They're having very issues. And, the hotels in Tiberias were closed from mid-March and they opened again in May. In May, we had a holiday, Shavuot, Pentecost. So the hotels started to open. And in the summer, they started to have good business, not with tourists. We don't have tourists coming to Israel, with Israelis. Because for Israelis, until last week, it was strictly forbidden, impossible to go overseas. So Israelis, when they wanted to go on vacation, they went to places like Eilat or Tiberias. So the hotels in Tiberias were full, but the corona hit Tiberias very, very bad. So the authorities wanted to block certain neighborhoods in Tiberias, but total closure.
Hmm.
Again, the ultra-Orthodox, they put heavy pressure against the government not to do that. But there are some neighborhoods in Tiberias which are in very bad conditions right now.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I know that this has impacted the tourism industry in a very, very detrimental way. Talk about what that looks like. What's the future look like? How are we going to be able to get people back to visit Israel?
I tell you, so far, situation in tourism in Israel is not good at all.
Hmm.
It's all because of our government, and I will explain why. Sadly, our government doesn't think that tourism is that important to the economy. From March the 15th, we closed everything. Everything. The hotels, restaurants, tour companies, buses, tour guides. We sit at home doing absolutely nothing, nothing, nothing. Okay. The problem is that hotels, they closed, and in the very beginning, they sent their staff for a vacation of 3 months. And of course, the government paid. But according to the law in Israel, after a 3 month vacation, or that you must bring the workers back to work, and as the employer, you pay them, or that you have to fire them. Again, in June, everything was closed. The airport, everything closed.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the hotels in Israel fired their staff. Imagine to yourself like a Prima Royal hotel in Jerusalem. You stay there quite a few times.
Yes.
All of the staff, you remember the staff, all of them are fired. And I talk to them almost every week. By the way, manager of the hotel, if you remember him, Moti, he passed away. Broken heart. Yes, he died. He
Oh my
died
goodness.
in the evening of Shavuot. A broken heart. It took it too hard that the hotel is closed. He got heart attack. He was sitting. They told me he was every day. He came to the hotel, was sitting in the lobby and crying. Eventually, his heart failed him. But they fired all of the staff.
Wow.
The staff, they start to look for different jobs, not only in tourism. And this is not only the Prima Royale. Many other hotels are in same conditions. Like many of the hotels in Jerusalem are closed, like Grand Court, Olive Tree, all of them are closed down. Haifa, most of the hotels are closed.
Wow.
So imagine to yourself that these hotels are closed and there is no maintenance, no maintenance. And let's say that next year the government will decide to open the Ben Gurion airport and the borders, and tourists will start to come to Israel. Imagine to yourself how much money it will cost the chains of the hotels just to bring the hotels to normal condition, because this is already half a year, no maintenance in all of the rooms. Think about the furnitures, think about the air conditioning system, the kitchens, everything, very bad conditions. Plus, they will have to hire a new staff and to start to train them from zero. It's a disaster. Also, many bus companies that work only with tourists. You see the buses, it breaks your heart. You see in Jerusalem and also in Galilee, it's like cemetery for brand new buses which are not even 1 year old. 2018, 2019 were very good years. So many bus companies, they bought brand new buses, and they're all under the sun with dust. Also, many bus riders. That's it. They left the business. They look for another job. Many restaurants that are closed. Many shops are closed. Many tour guides are leaving guiding because for how long you can wait. And the problem is that there is no deadline. Like if the government would come and say, you know what, in October, okay, we're going to open everything. Okay, we start tourism in October, in November, in December. Give us something. But no one knows when this will happen. This is so annoying because there are some Israeli military companies that developed an instrument that all you have to do is like, when the police catches you and they think that you're drunk, they ask you to foo into a tube and they say if you're drunk or not. So Israeli military companies, in May, they developed something like that. You foo into it, within 40 seconds, you have the result positive or negative for corona. And they said, we can put it in Ben Gurion airport before passport control. So let's say you're from Canada, you want to come to Israel. Okay, before you go to the airport in Canada, you have to bring the result from your doctor that you're clean. You come to Israel, arrive Israel before passport control. You check this within 40 seconds. You have the result, yes or not. If you are clean, passport control, welcome to Israel. If not, you go back to the same airplane and go back home. Who was against this idea? The government and our Ministry of Health. Because they said if you do something like this in Ben Gurion Airport, it has to be private laboratories. So they will make a lot of money. And our workers that work for this government organization, Ministry of Health, will quit and they will go and work with private companies. So we'll have no more workers. So because of this, they decided not to do that. Guess who is doing this today? India and many countries in Asia. They bought the machines that we developed and opened their borders. So usually I'm very, very optimistic, but this time I have no news because we don't know when they think even to open the borders. They don't talk about it. Not Ministry of Tourism, no one. If this will be after the holidays, September, October, I don't know. November, winter, no one knows.
Right.
I'm sorry that I cannot give you a more encouraging answer, but this is the reality.
Well, I was on a call, I don't know, a week or so ago, and the Israeli Minister of Tourism from Jerusalem was on the call, and it was for sort of advertising purposes, of course. And
Yes.
he actually said on the call that they were working towards opening the skies to green countries as of September sometime. But it didn't ring very true to me. Let's put it that way.
I tell you, yes,
Yeah.
Israel is open for green countries, but this is one way. What is one way? Our government allows Israelis, only Israelis, to go to green countries, but we don't allow non-Israelis,
Ah,
tourists from green countries to come to Israel.
okay.
Let's say that, for example, Switzerland is a green country. Okay? So our government nowadays is allowing any Israeli that wishes to go to Switzerland, but we don't allow Swiss people to come to Israel. Now, what is the problem? Because Israel nowadays is considered as red country, all of the green countries, they don't want any Israelis in their countries. So there are many European countries, yes, they are green, like Switzerland and Austria and Germany and many others. They don't want any Israelis. The only countries in Europe that are doing us a favor, Greece, agreed to accept only 600 Israelis every week, not more than that.
Okay.
Only 600 per week. And of course, you have to bring the results from the doctor, from the lab that you're clean. Also, for Israelis who are going to Greece, you cannot go everywhere in Greece. There are only 4 cities that they allow Israelis. This is number one. Bulgaria also agreed to welcome Israelis, and Georgia. These are the only 3 countries. We can go there, but still we do not allow any tourists, non-Israeli citizens, to come to Israel.
Hmm.
So I don't know
Okay.
what the guy from Ministry of Tourism told you, but this is the situation in Israel right now.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of watching with interest because I've had it'll be two tours now canceled because of COVID this year. We had a group
Yes.
of students, theological students that were supposed to be coming. Actually, we should have left yesterday to come for 10 days or so, and then of course the other trip in the fall. But it's
Yes.
interesting, and we're trying to think about what do we do? Can we plan for 2021? Is that real? Is that a reality?
I
So,
think that for 2021, yes, you can plan,
yeah.
because I don't think that this situation can last for more than 1 year. I mean, it started in March 2020. I don't think it can be until after March
Mm.
2021. Otherwise, the Israeli economy will totally collapse. Totally collapse. Nowadays, Israeli economy is in very bad conditions. Everything, this way or another, is connected to tourism. I'm not talking only about bus companies and hotels and restaurants and stuff and tour guides. No, even farmers that grow vegetables, they used to sell a lot of the vegetables to the hotels and to restaurants.
Mm.
Hotels, restaurants are closed, so they sell less. You know what? Even factories that make tablecloth, okay, napkins, tissues, things like that. Their biggest clients were hotels and restaurants. They lost more than 60% of their business.
Mhm.
So, okay, we are very strong with high tech and everything, okay, but without tourism, we cannot continue. And I believe that the government understands this point. More than a year, if this will continue after March 2021, I don't think that Israeli economy will continue even to exist. So I'm 100% sure by March 2021, definitely they will find a way, you know, to open the borders and to bring tourists here in a safe way.
Yeah.
So concerning your question, yes, to plan for 2021, I would say after March sound logic to me. Like from April 2021 onwards, I think that this makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, we're looking at that to see how that might work. Most of what I've been reading, tells me. I find it amazing that you said, the government doesn't consider tourism important enough to make the investment in, because it seems to me that about 40% of your GDP, the gross domestic product of Israel, is connected to tourism.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course.
That's a huge number.
Of course, I read the statistics in 2020. So, 2019, we got 8 billion US dollars income only from tourism. Show me another branch of the economy that brings so much money to the economy. Not 8 million, $8 billion
Wow.
came to Israel only from tourism.
Yeah.
High tech? No, high tech doesn't bring so much money. What? Medicine? Medicine doesn't bring so much money. What? Agriculture? Of course not. Diamonds? Definitely not. What? Minerals from the Dead Sea? Definitely not. But this is so unbelievable that the government doesn't think that this is that important, that now we must do something in order to open the borders and find a way to bring tourists here like the rest of the world is doing. You know what? Even our neighbors, Lebanon, okay, before the explosion over there, but even Lebanon opened her borders for tourists. Jordan, Egypt, Sinai, all of them are open for tourists. And we say, we are the only democracy in the Middle East, and high tech and medicine and everything. We are at the bottom of the list.
Well, there certainly is a big challenge for them to make tourists coming in from other countries feel safe. I think that's going to be the big thing.
Yes, not only to open the border, but to make tourists feel safe.
Yeah.
To come to Israel. Of course, that's the most important thing.
And I think that
the point is they open the borders, but Israel is not safe. You will not feel safe to come here. You will not come here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's going to be our challenge, I think, is saying to people, look, we're doing a tour, and the first question we're going to get is, will I be okay? Am I going to get corona? Am I, I know people, and even myself, we're reticent to even go anywhere where we have to go through the airport with with people coming in from other places, because it's so highly contagious.
Yes.
And we're still all trying, I think, to sort of figure this out. Gratefully, I'm grateful that here in Canada our numbers are down. The province of Ontario, where I live, we are 14.5 million people, so about 5 million more than live in Israel, live in my province, and we're down under 100 new cases a day. We've been as low as, I think, 33 cases one day, and so it's under control at this point. But again, everybody's waiting sort of for the penny to drop, because we don't know about this whole second wave, talk and all of that kind of stuff. So a vaccination at some point would be welcome, I think. But I think too that a lot of people are not going to be rushing to get this vaccination if they feel like it hasn't been properly tested, like it's been rushed through the process.
Yes.
So yeah, my wife is in the medical industry as well, and she tells me, because she works with clinical trials, that's the work that she does. She says, good science takes a minimum of 18 months and usually 2 to 3 years. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with all of this, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Putin said that they found the medicine.
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see.
We shall wait and see.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are taking that wait and see approach, for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So Isaac, what are you doing to fill your time these days?
I invest a lot of doing some researches and studies. I go very, very deep to the roots of everything. I improve a lot my knowledge.
Yep.
I take some courses in universities, Hebrew University and other colleges.
Good.
They open the special courses for tour guides, also Zoom. So I study a lot, and improve my knowledge, and waiting for tourists. to come to
Waiting
Israel.
for tourists to come to Israel.
Yes.
Now, how is your wife Dina doing with you being around so much?
Yes. Well, this is so weird. This is an excellent question. First of all, for me, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this.
Yeah,
Because normally, okay, between one tour to another, I have 2, 3, 4 days off. In the low season, maybe a week off. Okay. So I enjoy home. Now I'm half a year I'm at home. And the thing is that my wife is the one that every morning she goes out to work, come back in the evening. I'm the one who stays home.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. But I think that I'm a good husband. I have now time to cook. I cook a lot.
Good
I
for
have time,
you.
yes. I cook a lot. When she comes back from work, she has a dinner ready, waiting for her. I take care of the house. Many things that I wanted to do for many, many years and I had no time. Now is the time and now is the place to do this. And as I told you, I ran a lot. I ran
Yeah.
8 kilometers every morning. And in the evening, I'm not going to the gym, but I do some exercises at home. So she has her space and freedom. I have my space and freedom. I try not to annoy her too much.
you are a good husband then. If you try to do that, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. I'm glad to hear
See,
that.
in this room, this is where I sit and study because this is
Okay.
the quietest room. So I close the door, I sit, I study, so I don't disturb the life going on the rest of my house.
Very good.
Yes.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for taking the time today to
My
talk with
pleasure.
us. You've given us a real window into what's happening, especially with the tourism industry. And we bring groups of Christians over to Israel, or at least historically, we have done that over the years. And
Yes.
I want you to know, and I know you do know that Christians do pray for Israel, support Israel. And we will ask our Christian viewers and listeners to pray for you and for the tourism industry in particular. There are other guides that I know as well. You're my favorite, of course, but there are others, and we pray for them, and we're believing that the situation will change.
Of
we
course.
we all
It
believe.
lasts forever.
We all together believe in the God of Israel. So,
Yes.
we want God to help us in this situation and circumstance, and we also want to be wise as well. So, one of the things that I'll mention, and I'm going to say it on the podcast, so it means that I actually have to do it. You and I discussed before we came on live here, maybe 4 or 5 webinar type deals where we do some virtual touring of Israel, and you'll be our guide, and we'll show some footage and some photos, and talk about some of the different sites. I think that would be a lot of fun to do, and so
My pleasure to do this.
yeah.
Pleasure and privilege to do this.
Well, listen, let's set it up. I'll get to work on pulling some of that together, and
Excellent.
hopefully later in September, maybe early October, we can pull something off. That would be fun.
I will love to do this.
Great.
Jeff, your wish is my command.
Very good, very good. Well, listen, I do want listeners to know, if you want to hear Isaac talk about some of the sites in Israel, all of our television shows are available on our YouTube channel, and firstcenturyfoundations.com. If you search on YouTube, you'll find our channel, and you can see Isaac there, and he is good looking on TV. I'm going to tell you, man, he's so smart, and so you'll enjoy watching some of those episodes. I want you to know, Isaac, we've had a couple of our episodes. The one we did at Manias at Caesarea Philippi, I think now is approaching 10,000 views on YouTube. It's really been popular, and I don't know why, except it has maybe the word hell in the title. The gates of hell. Maybe that's what makes it so popular, but it's way more popular than any of the other episodes. So anyway, if you're listening and you want to go check that out, Isaac does a great job explaining what happens there at Caesarea Philippi, and he does a great job everywhere we go. Samaria is the other one that people like, up on the mountain there.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's yeah. Well, Isaac, listen, thanks for being on here. Talking to you has made me even lonelier now for Israel and wanting to get back. We were hoping we might be able to come in November to do some of our charitable work that we do there. Not a tour, but I'm starting to lose hope that that's going to happen. If I have to, self-isolate for 2 weeks when I first get there, it's really not feasible. It's just way too expensive. Yeah, so we're watching with interest to see what happens, and
mistakes.
Yes.
And yes, I think that by next year we will sit together and laugh about this time.
Let's do that. Let's sit together and laugh about this time a year from now. That would be amazing to do. Anyway, God bless you, my friend. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
All the very best.
All right.
Thank you. Shalom.
Well, thank you for joining us for the podcast today. And I hope you enjoyed my chat with Isaac Karasenti. Isaac is just a phenomenal guy, an amazing tour guide, an encyclopedia of information about Israel and biblical history. And we just love and appreciate him so much. As I mentioned in the podcast, right at the current moment, that is August 2020, we really don't know what tours look like in the future, but depending on when you are listening to this podcast, please continue to check our website, firstcenturyfoundations.com. That's firstcenturyfoundations with an S.com, and then click on tours in the menu bar above, and you'll find out any information on upcoming tours. We would love to have you travel to the Holy Land with us. We also do tours to other biblical sites from time to time. Please note that we are a ministry. We are a charitable organization that is raising funds to help other Christian and Messianic ministries in the land of Israel, over 70 different groups that we are working with there. And so we encourage you to connect with us, to engage with your prayers and your participation in giving. If you are able, please donate at firstcenturyfoundations.com/donate, and we would be so appreciative of your support. Thanks for tuning into the podcast this week, and remember, as Christians, we stand with Israel.